So there you have it. Kyrie Irving. I think he should become a full-time player, but I think it's just in due time. They have to take the protocols and whatnot. Stuff is opening up. But hopefully there's not another virus out there. And I think it will happen. Kyrie Irving will become a full-time player. I just don't understand the rule behind it. Neither does Adam Silver, but it is what it is. So tell me, I want to hear your opinion. Leave a comment in the comment section. Should Kyrie Irving become a full-time player? Jag from Jaggy Sports.
All right, so Kyrie was optimistic because New York City Mayor Eric Adams said last week that he was looking to lift some of the local vaccine mandates. And then on Sunday, Adams announced that as long as there continues to be a low level of risk, the city would remove vaccine requirements in key to NYC, and that includes indoor dining, fitness, and entertainment venues. However, a Nets spokesperson confirmed to me that New York's private employee vaccination mandate that will still keep Kyrie Irving from playing in Barclays Center, at least for now. So Adams was asked about Kyrie this morning on CNBC.
Listen, I want Kyrie on the court. I would do anything to get that ring. So badly I want it. But there's so much at stake here. And, I spoke with the owner of the team. We want to find a way to get Kyrie on the court, but this is a big issue. I can't have my city closed down again. And it was sending the wrong message just to have an exception for one player when we're telling a countless number of New York City employees, if you don't follow the rules, you won't be able to be employed.
In the garden.
All right, so we'll keep you updated on NBA Today as Kyrie's situation continues to develop as we welcome back Ramona Shell.
What has been the reaction to the mayor's comments?
Hannah, stop me if you've heard this before, but the Nets are now in a holding pattern once again with the city. It felt like walking out of that facility just now, like the air had been let out of the balloon a little bit. A week ago, they heard the mayor's comments and everybody thought, okay, it's finally going to be time. Kyrie's finally going to be able to play here soon at the Barclays. In home games, we're going to be a whole team again. Everything feels complete. And people started to hear those quotes today, and those filtered through the building, and everyone kind of went, oh no, here we go again. So there's still hope that this gets resolved before the playoffs, that something can change. But all that optimism that had been building as far as Kyrie's situation goes, and him saying the other night in Milwaukee, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, that has dissipated this morning for sure.
I will reiterate, as of now, only available for 7 games down the stretch. So let's turn to the other members of the Nets. Can we call them a big three yet? I guess we can. In terms of KD returning, also Ben Simmons, who's reportedly dealing with some back soreness as he works to return. What's the latest with those two?
Hannah, I just asked Bruce Brown, the Nets guard, how's KD look? And he kind of smiled and he looked back. He said, he doesn't look injured to me. I got to be honest. So Steve Nash said the other night, he's already out tonight against Toronto. He's likely out tomorrow in Toronto on the second night of the back-to-back. It looks like Miami is the game on Thursday for Kevin to return. He's in good spirits. He's feeling good about where he's at, and the Nets desperately need him to get the offense going again. Now, as far as Simmons goes, that's a little trickier. We were walking around the Milwaukee arena on Saturday night, and here comes Ben Simmons, and he's got this contraption strapped to his back to get it loose. That was a wrinkle in the plans because the Nets had hoped to roll him back out, whether it was that Philly game or a few games after. Now he's dealing with a little back soreness. He still hasn't gone through a full practice. He's doing a lot of individual work on the floor, but he hasn't been around the group much yet. The key to remember here, though, is that Andre Drummond just told me Ben Simmons is happy. He's in a good mental place. The Nets don't want to rush him back out on the floor if he's not feeling physically right. But by all accounts, he feels very good up here. And that's what they're focused on, not only leading in the postseason, but into the next few years in Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And listen, Drummond and Seth Curry, they have been fantastic additions. We saw that on Saturday night. So it's Nets and Toronto for the next 2 nights. They'll be very, very shorthanded because of COVID protocols. In Canada also, Kyrie won't be able to play in either of those games. Nick Friedel, good stuff. Thanks. And when will KD return? Maybe this is a bit better news. Nursing that sprained MCL, last played on the 15th of January, and Steve Nash said Saturday his return will happen at some point this week. Nick Friedel has all the latest from the Nets.
The Nets have already ruled Kevin Durant out for Monday's game against the Raptors, and Steve Nash said it was likely he would also miss Tuesday's game in Toronto. That means all signs are pointing to Durant's return coming Thursday against the Heat, and it can't come soon enough for Brooklyn. Everything revolves around him offensively. He makes that offense go, and the Nets know when he comes back on the floor, it will create space for everyone else, especially with Kyrie Irving still not being able to play in home games. So Durant is feeling good. By all accounts, he's looking good in the practices he's getting in the workouts. But the Nets are being very cautious because they want to continue to ramp him up, not only for what's coming in the next week, but of course, what they hope is a long postseason run over the next few months.
We shall see, thanks to Nick Friedel. The Nets are back in action tonight, the first of a home-and-home with the Raptors. That's a team that currently they would be playing in the play-in tournament. On Thursday, they take on the East-leading Heat, and Sunday afternoon on ABC, match up with red-hot Boston. And according to ESPN's BPI, the Nets are not favored to win any of the next 6 games. As NBA analyst Tim Legler joins us now, so Joe Harris, as we know, is also sidelined. The Nets do have Seth Curry and Andre Drummond from that Sixers trade, both of whom were really key in a win against the Bucks on Saturday night. But under the current realities of where we are, how can the Nets improve from that play-in position?
Well, Hannah, first thing you got to do is get KD back, right? So he makes up for a lot of problems. When KD's back and healthy, you have to incorporate Ben Simmons into what you're going to do, figure out what his role is going to be offensively. But there's no doubt he's going to help you immediately defensively and with pace. So just getting those guys back, obviously a huge shot in the arm. Now you've got Seth Curry added to the mix, Andre Drummond. Cam Thomas is a guy now that has really emerged as a guy that's going to be a major factor in the postseason. But when you start to look at where they are right now and where they need to be, it's hard to say where you need to end up to get out of the first round because you don't know how the top of the East is going to play out in terms of seeding. But the one thing that is important, Hannah, they need to get out of the play-in because in a play-in situation, foul trouble, an injury, a bad call, anything can go against you in a one-and-done situation, and you're going home. So you want to avoid that. Well, how do you get to 6? You win the games against the teams ahead of you. You saw that graphic. 5 of the next 6 against teams ahead of them in the East, but more importantly, 3 out of the next 4 are against Toronto and Boston. 2 games against Toronto, 1 against Boston. Those are the teams directly in front of them as they try to climb up to that 6th spot. So they need to go on a little bit of a run here with these teams in front of them in the Eastern Conference to at least get to 6 so you don't put your fate potentially in an off shooting night by one of your stars or foul trouble. You at least want to get to 6. Let's win these games against the teams that are directly in front of us first.
And this is another reason why that's so important, because as it stands right now, as I mentioned, they would meet the Raptors in the play-in, and Kyrie Irving, if it stays like this, he's not going to be eligible to play at all in that series because of COVID protocols, both in Toronto and in New York. So lots of reasons to get out of that play-in.
I've been critical of Kyrie Irving. I didn't stutter. I'm not backing up. I meant every single damn word I said. But that does not mean that what New York has done to him is right. It is not. Kyrie Irving should have never been prevented or prohibited from playing a game at the Barclays Center this season. The city of New York's rule is bogus. It is ridiculous. And it has no business being in place. And Eric Adams, the mayor, who I like, by the way, needs to step up and handle his business in this regard, in this specific regard. We all in or we're out. The governor of New York needs to do the same. We in or we out. What do I mean by that, Monica? Very simple. How can a visitor come into the Barclays Center and be unvaccinated? How can they be unvaccinated, a visiting player, assuming there was one? I'm not saying there was. But if the rule stated, if a visiting player came into the city unvaccinated, they would be allowed to play at the Barclays Center and Madison Square Garden. How is it that a visitor could come and play, but Kyrie Irving can't play? It makes absolutely no sense. Even the commissioner, Adam Silver, said he was a bit flummoxed. That wasn't the word he used. I'm using that. But he was a bit flummoxed at the fact that that rule was in place. It made no sense. Either you have to be vaccinated in order to play at an indoor facility in New York or not. It shouldn't be, well, you're the home team, you're here, so you can't play, but a visitor can come into town and play. It makes absolutely, positively no sense whatsoever. Kyrie Irving has been thoroughly screwed over in that regard. There is no excuse for that. Nobody, you either in or you out. Either you have to be vaccinated to participate in competition inside the Barclays Center, or you can't. It can't be the home team can't play there, but a visitor could come in and play there. That is why I feel that Kyrie Irving should be allowed to play effective immediately. That's where I'm at with it.
All right, so this is what I will say, and I have caught heat from some folks for this, but the initial decision I had the capacity to make sense of. In the idea that tourism is a major part of your business, but if you can get your residents on board, then you can help mitigate the raising the head count of COVID cases, right? Okay. So the first part, I could rationalize. It's a little bit of a funky rule. Yeah, I get it. Maybe it's not fair. But I could understand it in the idea that I'm going to get my residents on board. Then at least that group will be protected, and tourism and visitors have to get to do what they got to do because they're leaving. The second part, though, I agree with you, Stephen A. If we are going to lift this thing, then it has to be lifted for all. And I don't understand the differentiation between private sector, public, the whole bit. At this point, if the mayor decides to move forward with lifting the ban, then Kyrie Irving should return to the court so that we can get Perk back on here when this Brooklyn Nets squad is loaded up again, so we can talk about Perk in them 76ers.
Well, let me get on you.
Okay.
Because you disagree with me on the first part.
I did disagree on the first
part. I actually think that it's blasphemous that you disagreed with me on that part.
Okay.
Allow me to explain.
Please.
If indeed they're getting their house in order because tourism is an issue, that would mean business. What did you say? Tourism is business.
Yes.
Business is about dollars and cents, right? Because I'm a capitalist and proud of it.
Let's do it.
Ain't no shame in my game, okay? So we understand that. Well, last time I checked, Kyrie box office. Excuse me, he plays in an arena. You got thousands of people that pack the arenas all the time looking forward to this box office attraction playing. You are prohibiting him from doing so because you're talking about a health crisis that we are dealing with. But you exclude tourism from the equation, not you, the people who spoke to you.
I got you.
You're excluding tourism from the equation because
you skipped over my thing,
because of the bottom line.
But
and I'm just saying the point is if the bottom line is about tourism and it's about money, that's even less of an excuse to prohibit Kyrie Irving from being available to play and be the showstopper that he is in Brooklyn.
You picked tourism and skipped over the part about residents. And as a resident, the idea to me was to get residents on board, right? And quite honestly, we would need somebody to give us some numbers. I do believe that Kevin Durant is still box office. And so I don't think the Brooklyn Nets were hurting.
Well, time out. First of all, Kyrie lives in Jersey. That's number one.
That's a good point.
That's number one. All right. So when we talk about residents, the brother lives in Jersey. All right. So because he lives in Jersey, he travels to the Barclays Center to play basketball.
He exists there.
So again, the point that I'm trying to make is that the resident home team, I understand that Madison Square Garden, the Knicks, Barclays Center, the Nets. In the end, what it comes down to is that the citizens of Brooklyn, New York, and New York City are the people who don't get to see Kyrie Irving perform in person. How can you justify that when tourism is the reason, and residency, tourism and residency is the reason you would repel this from transpiring? You're basically saying it's about business because if it was all about a health crisis, it don't matter Tourism don't even matter. Excuse me, when the pandemic first hit.
It did not matter.
Before
right.
the vaccine was available, and even after the vaccine was available, it still didn't matter. We got countries. Look at the Toronto Raptors. They played all season in front of an empty stadium. Why? Because the health crisis took precedent. So now you're telling me residency, tourism, that takes precedence? Well, if that takes precedence, that's even less of an excuse to prohibit Kyrie Irving from showing up to play at the Barclays Center. And Mayor Eric Adams, I like you, my brother. I appreciate what I'm seeing from you. I'm a fan thus far. I hope it continues. But this is something that you need to modify immediately. Kyrie Irving should be allowed to play at the Barclays Center effective immediately.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jag from Jaggy Sports here. Before I get into that, hit subscribe, like, and notification. As always, I appreciate the support. Let's get right into it. You have, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving news does not stop. It never does. Now, New York is considering lifting mandates and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But tell me if this was a heated discussion on ESPN First Take today. Should Kyrie be allowed to become a full-time player? I don't know. I think the rule is, it doesn't make any sense to me, but I do agree with the mayor saying he can't just make an exception for one player, one person, yada, yada, yada. But you tell me, should Kyrie Irving be a full-time player?